When we were on the air last night, Sanity was beginning to prevail in the city within the city that was set up by the lunatics in Seattle. These were the people who decided to take over a 6-block radius of the city of Seattle. They decided at the heart of it to take over the local police station. But they have now been pushed away. And if you remember last night's show, you'll remember the reason why. But I've got to say, somebody who's been hilarious all the way through this, dripping in his sarcasm about the oh-so-woke wankers and glorified toddlers that decided to start up their own country, a country where, of course, people have been killed in the past couple of weeks. Tucker Carlson lays it on with a trowel, and it's brilliant.
Of an era. It was just 3 weeks ago that the struggling and fledgling state of Chaz seceded from downtown Seattle, from the U.S. itself. A week later, after internal revolution, it became CHOP, but the new name didn't stop the turmoil within. After a series of killings, the world's youngest country also had the world's highest per capita murder rate. Sensing weakness, its enemies pounced. Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan, who praised CHOP just weeks ago, sent in police to re-annex the country back to the U.S.
So what was this special autonomous zone, one where the lefties were in charge? How did they take care of the property that they stole from other people? Well, here are some of the images that were published in the Seattle Times and the New York Post about just how beautiful and how idyllic this particular location was. Was called Chaz, then became CHOP, and today it got the CHOP. Many of the barricades that are being moved were actually also put in place by the city of Seattle, who was trying to, at best, facilitate this city within a city. But remember, the whole reason why these idiots were able to take hold for as long as they did was because you can't dare upset these sooks. And the mayor of Seattle played right into my theme that it's one thing for the idiot protesters, it's one thing for the crazies in our universities, but when these people start getting elected and have the power to enforce or not enforce the law, when someone says this about taking over streets in your own city, it should concern everyone.
How long do you think Seattle in those few blocks looks like this?
I don't know. We could have the summer of love.
Well, tell that to the police, who was supposed to be in that precinct, though. But I understand your sentiment, Mayor.
So who cares that the cops got booted out? Who cares that the businesses that were in there could get stuffed? Who cares that the people who live in the unit blocks around there, well, they can just suffer the summer of love? But of course the protesters, well, they weren't happy with this mayor, because despite the fact that she kissed the ring, she didn't kiss it for long enough and deep enough and lovingly enough. So they decided to turn up at her house. And when they turned up at the Summer of Love Mayor Talking's house, well, she of course said they had no regard for her safety, no regard for her family's safety. So literally, within 48 hours of them turning and making her life uncomfortable, forget the cops, forget the locals, they, of course, got rid of CHOP, got rid of Chaz. This should have happened within hours of it happening in the first place. It definitely should have happened after the first weekend of shootings that resulted in somebody dying. And it should have happened instantaneously after a teenager was killed in this so-called summer of love. The father of that teenager was on television today to talk about the people who killed his kid.
My son's 19, they should have did something about this a long time ago. And I don't, like I said, I understand Black Lives Matter and everything was going on and everything, but that's not my movement right now. My movement is let them know that was my son.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Horace Lorenzo Anderson was my son. I don't know. I'm not with all this, whatever's going on.
Politics or
none of that. I don't know nothing about that. I don't even know nothing about that. All I know is this is my son, and I love him.
His boy died. The police did not move in. They attacked the mayor's house. The police move in.